Right, so today, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about success. We're going to talk about the number one imperative, rule, and principle of success. Now we're going to talk about it at one level, we're going to talk about it at a second level, but first we're going to talk about it at the surface level, and then we're going to go a little bit deeper and describe a little bit of the underlying mechanics that make that first level possible. But end of the day, first level, however you get to that first level, and it's different for everybody, is what's important. So this is the action imperative, and it really is one of the most simple ideas in the world. Nothing works unless you do. I'm sure you guys have heard this adage a million different times, but it's worth hearing again. It really is, because fundamentally, unless some sort of action is taken that gets you from where you are now, here, to where you want to be, here, and that's whatever your definition of success is, right? It could be a better body, it could be better relationships, it could be better finances. It's you want to move from here to here, right? And that takes some sort of movement, right? What is movement? Movement is action. It's something you do. Success isn't something you have. It's not something you achieve. It's something you do. You are successful. It's a state of being, and being is doing. Makes sense. It's very simple, right? And this is the number one area as a chronic procrastinator through all of high school, through a lot of my early jobs, through just so many different areas that I messed up on. It's not taking action. Almost every single failure I can think of or identify leads back to not taking the right action, not taking sufficient action, or not taking more action. Almost every problem, excluding relationships, is sourced back to those three things. And even the relationships, a lot of the time, the problem was an action I didn't take, i.e. breaking it off. But that's a story for a different day. If you want to get into relationships, I'm sure I'll make videos about it in the future. But as it stands, it's those three things, Either I didn't take sufficient action, right? I didn't take the right action, I didn't take sufficient action, or I didn't take more action. Simple. Almost anywhere I look at where any situation I brought on myself that I regret, it was one of those things. It was not taking some form of action, not taking enough, not doing the right one, or not going far enough with an action. It's pretty simple. I'm trying to get my hands more in this so it's a little bit more visually engaging, but I just kind of created this off the spur of the moment. Topic being action. I'm taking action with these videos. I want to start putting videos out there just because it's an action I've wanted to take for a long time, and I've tried time and time and time again, not been consistent with it. So here we are, taking action. Right? Anything you want to do in your life, the answers are going to lie in the action. Even the wrong action is the right action because it's better than no action. No action, you stay where you are. Even wrong action, you get on the path, and even if it's the wrong path, you have momentum now. And that momentum, even if you kind of say this is your goal, right? Say this is your goal, and you start to move way over here, but you're kind of going this way, right? From this perspective, you're going the wrong way. But like this perspective, you went here. Even though it was the wrong direction, and the right direction would have been this way, and you went this way, still went a little far, right? You still made progress. And you have the momentum, right? And so now it can look like this, right? As opposed to just that. It's not a straight line, it's a lot more like curves, right? And sometimes it's like that, and this whole squiggly line thing, I think that's kind of BS, the whole squiggly, like this is what success looks like. I think it really is more of like just a couple points, right? It's like that. So action is the imperative. If you just watch to here and stop, smash that like button, and give me a sub to listen to more. I mean, it's just kind of primarily philosophy type subjects, ideas is really mostly what I like to talk about, but related to living life. So that's kind of what philosophy is in my mind. If you kind of look to more of the Stoic definition of philosophy, nuggets of wisdom to help you live your life better, I think that's mostly what I have to provide at my current point in life. And then also, informational, financial stuff, whatever. But if you just stop here, that's good. I'm going to go a little bit further into the background of action. But as far as you need to know, if you have something you want to do, you want to get more fit, you want to get your money in better shape, you want to be healthier in your relationships, take an action in those areas and start taking massive action in those areas. Not just a little bit, but a lot. Like, just juicy, giant steak portions of action. Just bite into that and go after it. And things will start to transform. They might get a little bit worse, they might get a little bit better, but you're going to get momentum to taking action, and then you can kind of get feedback from the situation, course correct, and get to a better place. Imperative is action. Number one rule of success. Nothing changes until you do. Nothing happens until you do. Right? And that kind of nothing changes until you do, that's kind of the second portion of this. So if there's a straight practical side of this, that's all you need to know. If you want to get a little bit deeper, that's where we're going to go. All right, so I'm going to go into a little bit of content that's covered by, let me grab the book over here. My room is a mess, but I'm going to show you, like, my book. My room is a mess, but I'm going to show you my bookshelf and kind of, well, I mean, whatever. I mean, I'm not exactly hiding myself here. This is my collection. It's quite messy in here right now. I normally keep things tidy, but welcome to my room. Yeah, but this book right here. So we're going to cover a little bit of stuff from in there. Now, funny thing about this book, I've not actually validated this information, but recently I watched a video that claimed that the guy who wrote this was actually just a giant scam artist, which is interesting. But in here, the whole think and grow rich idea, right? This book, it kind of goes into a key principle, which even if this was a scam and the dude that wrote it was a scam artist, has merit, right? So it's the whole idea that it's kind of this whole the secret thing. I don't know if you've ever heard of those. And I hate talking about it because honestly, I like books like this. I'm super skeptical of The Secret. Think and grow. Like, I think it's just a crock of shit for the most part. But there's some value to it, right? So I think there's actually just some biological value to it, right? Because before anything happens, any action in this physical realm, the things that you can see, touch, smell, hear, taste, before anything happens out here, right, all of this is generated in here, right? So there is some value to understanding what goes on in here, and by in here I mean your cranium, your brain, your cerebral cortex, your neural cortex, whatever, inside your brain. There's some merit to understanding what goes on in there and how that affects out here, because out here, the world is all pretty much a creation of what's in here. So by starting in here, you can have easier time operating outside of here, right? So that goes back to kind of that think and grow rich idea. So before you start to work out, right, you first have to have the thought that you want to work out, right? But it has to be more than the thought. Like, there has to be a little bit more that goes into that, right? So like we get into the realm of how do we start in the mind and optimize our mind for us to take action in the world, right? And there's a couple key things there, right? So there's just a couple simple concepts, and I'm actually going to take each of these individual concepts and break them down in later future videos, and they'll actually be connected once I make those videos, and in the description below, and I'm pretty sure post-roll, and they'll probably show up in suggested, but if not, you can go to the channel and they'll be there as well. But there's a couple key things you can do to maximize your psychology and your neurology for making like action, performing action in the world, right? And so one of those things, the first thing is going to be identity, right? So that's one. I gotta write these down so I don't lose track of where I'm at in this conversation. These are all off the cuff. Alright, so there's identity. Right. So that's one there. There is desire, right? And there's emotional leverage. So desire is the important, it's the focal point, it is the target with the bullseye. That is why desire is important. Action without desire is just undirected action, which yields undirected results, right? So before you go into anything, you have to have something in mind that you desire, right? And so fortunately, most of us already do have something we desire, and usually it's related to something that's either a strength or a shortcoming. So it's either a strength we want to amplify or a shortcoming that we want to shore up. Right? So there's typically the two domains of desire, and then there's usually another third, which is aspirational desire, which is something that's a little bit more high-minded, but something that is a more refined pursuit, say becoming best in the world at a particular thing, whatever it be. Right? So that's the importance of desire for action. You need a target to shoot at and direct the action. All right, now then it becomes to taking your initial actions. And this is where you get two concepts that are extremely important for taking your initial actions and persisting through further actions. Right? So the first one is going to be emotional leverage. This is kind of what gets the ball rolling. And typically, emotional leverage is just a fancy word for at what point is your reality more painful than the pain of waiting to go and do what you want to do, right? So at what point is your reality more painful than the pain of pursuing the desire, the target, the goal, right? So all emotional leverage is increasing the pain of your present moment until the point it's greater than the perceived pain of going after whatever it is that you desire. Right? Okay, so that's emotional leverage in a nutshell. I'm going to link to some other videos that kind of break down that concept more. Yeah, a lot of them actually stem from the pickup community, which is kind of a community about people that like to go out and pick up chicks, whatever. There's a lot of valuable information in that community just because they put a lot of high quality content out. And it's related mostly to self-development, so it's, the whole idea is being that, I'm going to get into that later. And so there's that third concept, though, which is identity. And so identity is important because once you've picked your desire, you've generated or reached the point of emotional leverage at which you've started to take action, how do you continue to take action once the ball has been rolling and make sure it's the right action, right? Well, that's where this really powerful concept of identity comes into play. And I came across this by listening to a podcast with David Goggins and Tom Bilyeu, which I will also link to. I'm always going to be linking to more information because that's all my ideas are just amalgamations of information. And this idea of identity is that if you want to be a world-class basketball player, right? You don't think, oh, I want to be a world-class basketball player, and that's it, right? No, that's you're only hitting desire there, right? So presumably you've had desire and emotional leverage, but now you're going and doing, but you're not sure exactly what to do, right? And so this whole identity thing, or you don't have the discipline to keep up what that requires, which is also another thing. You can quit at any time, but presumably if it's a worthwhile pursuit, you don't quit. Yeah, and so one of the most powerful tools you have in your toolkit is identity, right? You think, what would a world-class basketball player do in a situation? Like, what would they do? Think of I am a world-class basketball player. What would a world-class basketball player do? What actions would they take? What coaching would they seek out? What lifestyle would they live? What sleep habits and routines would they have? This identity filter becomes the lens through which you can see your life and what things are aligned with your goal, the desire that you have created the emotional leverage to pursue, and what things aren't. And then you match things up to those filter, and everything falls into place. So, a couple tools there: identity, desire, emotional leverage, right? Action is imperative. Take action at all costs. Use these 3 tools to get yourself to take the right action and proper action. Go do something incredible. See you in the next video.